Yes, this is part 2 of the tutorial that's been requested on how to build a GMod plane. We've already built the frame in part 1, and what's going to be important now is the wiring. Now, and the balancing of the frame. This is going to take the most time, so just to keep it short, what we're going to have to do is make sure that this plane is going to be as balanced as possible, and so it's not going to teeter in the air, and we have to make it a little bit lighter because the props are very heavy initially, and what you'll need to have is the weight tool, and depending on what multiplayer server you have, it should usually be there. Now, as you can see, the wings are, for example, weigh 80, and that is pretty heavy. The chair weighs 20, and the wheels each weigh 20. This block weighs 4, that's no problem. 5, that's no problem. So first of all, we'll have to, we can only check that later on, so the first thing we're going to do is wire our thrusters, and then we have to do the, then we'll have to check if the balancing is okay by simply testing it. Good, we've made sure that this is going to be for our pitch, this is going to be for, no, that's going to be for our roll, that's going to be for our pitch, and that's going to be for the thrust. So the first thing I'm going to do is work with the thrust subtraction gate. So what you're going to do is wire A to W, no, wrong, A to space, because we're going to have space thrust, and B to shift. And if you don't want any backwards motion, you can simply wire space to the thrusters, but in my case I'd like to have my plane be able to drive backwards for easier taxiing. Now we're going to wire A to that gate, and A from the other thruster to that gate, and if I unfreeze it now, yes, it has a decent forward motion. Okay. Now we're going to have to check the roll, and what we're going to do there is use these two gates. I'll just say this one is going to be for the left, and this one is going to be for the right, because they're on the same side of the prop, they're on the top. If I'd apply thrust to both, it would simply push me downwards, but what I want to do is apply thrust to that one, and make that one push and this one pull. That's why we'll have to use two subtraction gates. So I'm going to have to wire, if I want to use the, I'm going to go for the left one first. So I'm going to have to press A if I want it to roll to the left, and or counterclockwise if you want to say it that way. So it's going to thrust if we press A. That means we're going to have to wire A to A and B to D. And for the other one is the exact different. The exact other way, we want it to thrust when we press D and to pull when we press A. And yes, that's good. So we're going to wire A to D and B to A. And then we're going to wire this one to that one, and the right thruster to the other gate. And if I've done everything correctly, oh, it's already unfrozen. Then, yep, if I press A, it tilts to the left, and if I press D, it tilts to the right. Good. Now, we're going to go for the pitch, and I've got these two gates here. What I'm going to do is, this one is going to be for the front, and this one is going to be for the back. Same problem, both thrusters are on the top of the same prop, so we'll have to use two gates. If I were, for example, to place this thruster on the bottom, I would only use one gate, because then it doesn't matter if I press these two are going to have the same thrust and pull, but in this case I'm going to have to use two. So this is going to be for the front. If I press W, I want it to thrust because it's supposed to tip downward then. So I'm going to wire A to W and B to S, and for the other one the exact opposite, A to S and B to W. So that should work now. Oh, and I forgot to wire the thrusters. Wire A to the output and wire A to that output. Okay. Yep. Jesus Christ. Well, we'll still have to balance that a bit. Okay. Now the thrusters are complete. That's the basic setup you'll need for any plane you're making. And the balancing is just the difficult part, which takes a lot of time. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to thrust, and you'll see that the plane is it tilts, and that the top of the thing is far, that the top pair of wings is far too heavy because it drags it downwards, and the back of the plane is far too heavy because we're pulled. Well, yes, we're pulling upwards, so we're like doing loopings, and we don't want that. So we're gonna get out our weight tool, and we're gonna reduce the weight of this thing on top to 20 for starters, and the weight of that plate there to 10, but you'll have to test that for yourself for your own frame. And 15, we'll just make that 5. Good. And now we'll see what we've done. As you can see, it's still tilting very badly. That's why I placed this plate. It's going to act as a counterweight. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make this heavier, say for instance 40. Okay, it's a lot better now, and our thrusters are still way too strong. We'll have to reduce the roll thrusters. So we go ahead, get out our thruster tool, and then reduce the 4000 to a reasonable, let's say 700. That's what I used for my other plane, and the maximum too. Just update them. And the pitch is still quite strong. That's why I'll just make that 2000 instead of 4000. As you can see, the forward thrusters are 4000, which is quite okay for the moment. So we'll lift off. Well, we're still tilting to the back, so we'll just land. So and I'm pressing space to thrust, A to roll left, and W to, and S to pitch upwards, and W to pitch downwards. So like a realistic flight simulator or steering stuff. You can vary that depending on what you wire to your subtraction gates. So I'm gonna make the back a little lighter. Get out our weight tool, and let's see what have we got here. 10. I'll make that 5. 5. I'll make that 2. And I'll make the weight in front even heavier to 60. Not 602. Good. Well, yes, as you can see, it's okay. It's not perfect. The thrusters in the back could be a little stronger, and we're still tilting to the back. You shouldn't make the weight in back too light, because the welds get yes, I can do one more thing, because the welds would get weaker. So the less weight you have, the weaker the welds get. That's why you should never reduce that to 1 or something, because then it would flop around, and that would be stupid. So we're gonna make the weight of that little bottom block here, which is only 4 to 20, and see if it is better now. Well, yes, the thrusters in the back could be a little stronger. Well, it's working, so you'll just have to adjust that for yourself. Make the front a little heavier. Well, but it's okay, so we can do a barrel roll. Let's see if I can do a looping. Up. Oh shit. Well, yes, I could, and the wheels are nice and stable, so that plane doesn't glitch into the ground. Yes, that's it. You can add turrets and trails and whatever. You can change the material of that plane, but as long as it flies, which is the actual achievement, well, that's how you build a GMod plane. Well, thank you for watching, and you don't have to subscribe.